Today, we're going to talk about how to make ordinary workers better off. Many people take one of two approaches to this question. First, they might say, look, we just need to make employers more generous. That could mean higher minimum wage, or union bargaining power, or pay the CEO less so that we can pay the workers more. A second popular approach is to just redistribute money from the wealthy. To get an economist's perspective, we need to zoom way out and look at the big differences in worker well-being. For example, we can compare today's workers to workers of 100 years ago. Even after adjusting both prices and wages for inflation, today's workers earn 8 times more per hour than workers of 100 years ago. Now here's the thing. It's not like American employers have gotten 8 times more generous over the past 100 years. In particular, CEOs aren't earning 8 times less than they did 100 years ago. They're earning much more. So we can't explain this huge rise in worker well-being to lower CEO pay. Yes, we now have minimum wages and we now have unions, but the thing is, those actually cover a very small fraction of the workforce. And the workers who are covered by them, on average, earn less than the workers who aren't. So those can't explain this huge rise in worker wages. And yes, the government is doing more redistribution than 100 years ago, but that doesn't explain why private labor market wages are 8 times higher than they were 100 years ago. Or you can look across countries. Even after adjusting for exchange rates, the average American worker earns 15 times more per hour than the average worker in Indonesia. Again, it's not like American employers are just 15 times more generous than Indonesian employers. It's not like Indonesian CEOs are making 15 times more than American CEOs, and we're not doing 15 times more redistribution than the Indonesians are. So if these huge differences in worker wages don't come from simply forcing employers to be more generous, if they don't come from paying CEOs less, and if they don't come from redistribution, where do they come from? American workers earn 8 times more per hour than 100 years ago because they can produce 8 times more output per hour than 100 years ago. Why? Because we have better infrastructure and better technology than we did 100 years ago. We have more physical capital, like more factories and more warehouses and more office buildings and more computers, and our workforce is more skilled and more educated than 100 years ago. All of that means that today's workers can produce much more per hour, and so they can be paid more per hour. Likewise, American workers can produce 15 times more per hour than Indonesian workers can, which is why they can be paid 15 times more. Now, that's not because the Indonesian workers are lazy. It's because they don't have the technology, they don't have the capital, and they don't have the infrastructure that American workers have. But as they continue to build those things, their output per hour will rise, and their income per hour will continue to rise. Now, does that mean that we shouldn't care at all about the wages that workers earn? Just say, they earn what they deserve? No. But it does change the questions that we should ask. Instead of asking how to force employers to be more generous or how to take money away from CEOs or the wealthy, we should instead be asking 2 different questions. First, we should make sure that workers are being paid a wage that accurately reflects their productivity. And second, we can find ways to raise that productivity, either with more capital or better infrastructure or better training that allows people to produce more per hour and so earn more per hour.
Who is that Econguy?
I'm Patrick Walsh. I'm an associate professor of economics at St. Michael's College near Burlington, Vermont.